Twitter and social media in the news this week. The company continues to roll out stricter rules on content and reportedly working on a video sharing feature that could mimic Snapchat. Of course, we got the news this week that Anthony Noto is leaving the company. To talk about that and a lot more, Dick Costolo is the CEO of Chorus, mentor with Index Ventures, and of course the former CEO of Twitter. It's great to have him back at Post 9.
Thanks very
much.
Welcome. Great to be here.
A lot of news. What does Noto's departure mean for Twitter?
Well, look, listen, Anthony's, I think, a fantastic executive. It's one of the reasons I brought him into the company as a CFO first, and then Jack made him COO. He's ready to lead a company, so he'll be a great CEO for SoFi. I think the important thing to point out for Twitter is Jack's built a great bench there over the last couple of years. There was a bunch of news about executive departures, I think in 2015 and early 2016. In the background, while that was making the headlines, Jack was adding more people to the team, promoting people from within who are also fantastic leaders. Both the sales organization and the engineering and product organization, I think, have more than sufficient leadership to fill in the gaps there that Anthony will leave.
We should point out Twitter got a pop just this morning because people knew you were coming on. But 6% move. We're back to 23.5.
Yeah.
I mean, you can guess what people are speculating about. Would you be surprised to see a change in control in the next year?
I think, look, listen, as you all know, I think Jack is a fantastic person and a great leader and a great CEO for the company. I think actually the more important thing for Twitter right now, and it got a little bit of press the other week, but I think people underestimate how important it is for Twitter, is Facebook's newsfeed change, moving from focus on news and information and interests, which has long been sort of Twitter's backyard, and moving back to a more content about your friends and socializing and what your friends are sharing. That's huge for Twitter and its relationship with the media and publishers around the world. I think that's going to be of enormous benefit to them.
So those who were on Facebook looking for news, right?
Right.
And live information,
right.
You think come home to Twitter?
I think, if you're Twitter, you can think about it as, hey, Facebook's been digging in our backyard with, a pretty big backhoe there for the past few years, and they just packed up and moved down the street. That's a fantastic world to live in if you're Twitter.
Dick, we've got some growth monsters in tech, Apple, Amazon, Google, and people talking about them like they're illicit drugs, like addictive, perhaps bad for society. But at the same time, we've got Snapchat and Twitter.
I happen to think billionaires are bad for society. But anyway, so as they have their opinions about social media, and I have my opinions about them.
That's probably because you're not a billionaire yet. But then But when you look at Twitter and Snapchat, they're not managing to grow at that kind of pace. And even Apple has had trouble in social, right? Despite the fact that it's huge. What is it that's so hard about plugging the leaky bucket for some of these platforms and getting them to grow?
I think the interesting thing for people to realize is the difference between these networks is Facebook and truly social networks are about your friends. A network of your friends is pretty, I don't want to understate the case for Facebook. It's pretty easy to build because your friends are already in your contacts on your phone. So you can upload those contacts and build a social network. A network like Twitter or like LinkedIn is based on interests, and that network is harder to build. LinkedIn is people I worked with 20 years ago. I got to go find them and get them to give me a reference. Twitter is based on an account I found through another account I follow that retweeted somebody else, and I start following that. Those things take time to build. The beauty of networks like Twitter and LinkedIn are, while they're harder to build, those networks, they're much more resilient. You can't just go recreate that because it takes so long to create that interest graph. Social networks that are based on the contents of my address book, well, you can have a number of those. You can have WhatsApp, you can have Telegram, you can have Facebook, etc.
We talked a little in the intro about reports that Twitter is coming up with a video sharing application that would sort of mimic Snapchat. But does it need to? Can Twitter just refocus on news as maybe Facebook moves back to your pure social networks? Does every social app need to have all of these features, or should they specialize, stay in their lane, find what they're good at, and invest there?
I think it's a perfectly fair question. My answer is both.
Okay.
Yes, they should focus on their core competencies, and I think Twitter's core competency is the interest graph and news and information and what's happening right now in the world. Live, of course, as Jack's been talking about for a while. However, what you're also seeing from them is it's easier for people to share visual information, take a picture and share it, than think of the right now 280 characters to write alongside that and maybe caption the photo with. what you're seeing from them is a continuing effort to make it easier to share visual information as part of the what's going on right now.
Davos has been a big story this week. A lot of it's been the focus on the role of regulation in tech. George Soros, the billionaire investor last night, saying, quote, the exceptional profitability of these companies is largely a function of their avoiding responsibility for and avoid paying for the content of that platform. They claim they're merely distributing information, but the fact they are near monopoly distributors make them into public utilities and should subject them to more stringent regulations aimed at preserving competition, innovation, and fair and open universal access. Similar echo out of Murdoch regarding Facebook. Likely that they pay for the stuff in the pipe?
Listen, the history of government regulation of a business to achieve some outcome is not compelling. And, you know, Soros also mentioned, I think, and a couple other folks, along with these comments, have been talking about things like bots and spam. These companies would get rid of that with the snap of a finger if they could. It's not like they're not trying to find these things and remove them as quickly as possible. So I think steps to regulate them or define how they should acquire content and regulate how it should be paid for and distributed is just going to have all sorts of unintended consequences that won't be great for everybody.
Yeah, and kind of hard to get somebody to start paying for something that you've been giving away for free for two decades.
Yeah, it's extraordinary marketing for these services as well. So there's a sense that well, the marketing should still happen for us, but you should also have to pay for the content is a little bit, all right, well.
Is this tech in turmoil overblown? Sometimes the chattering classes can put too much emphasis on certain themes. We see Intel earnings after Meltdown and Spectre were supposed to be maybe taking down the company. Apparently not. Is tech really in turmoil? How real is the danger?
I think it's a little bit overblown. These companies are run by smart people. They're doing a good job running their companies. The businesses are growing. Sure, there are going to be issues that they're facing. There are going to be issues they're always facing. They're going to figure out how to get out ahead of these, irrespective of whatever issue it might be, whether it's Intel and the chip issues, or the social media platforms and foreign influence in them. They all want to solve these problems. They'll figure out the best way to solve them, and they'll move forward.
One last thing, and I hope you don't mind. You're a pretty savvy market navigator.
Here we go.
You get into you're a clever trader. Any good ideas you've had lately? Any good trades? Or no, you're not going to give.
No, let's. It's better left unsolved.
All right. If you change your mind, just pick up the phone.
All right. I'll text you from my burner phone.
A market mystery. Thank you very much to Costolo. Thanks for joining us. When we come back, an atypical comment from Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin out of Davos this week moved markets, sending the dollar to a 3-year low. The president saying those comments were misinterpreted. Well, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers called Mnuchin's comments, quote, very problematic in an op-ed. He joins us to explain. Stay with us.